Hi, my name is Shelly Manning. Today I'm going to teach you how to completely heal your arthritis in 21 days or less using nothing but simple diet and lifestyle changes. Everything I teach you is based on scientific studies from some of the most respected institutes in the world. But the real secret comes from an old mysterious woman I met in my travel in Southeast Asia. Now, imagine your arthritis completely vanishing right this moment. If in a second your pain and stiffness melted away and all your joints all of a sudden functioned like a well-oiled machine. Like a magic wand was waved, you'd be able to jump up from your chair and run around the room like a kid. And imagine that you never had to suffer as much as a pinch of arthritis, stiffness, or pain ever again. I know this sounds impossible now, but bear with me because sometimes miracles happen. And this is exactly what happened to me in a location I least expected. It was a gift from a woman on the other side of the world. From the kindness of her heart, she took pity on my suffering and taught me how to completely reverse my arthritis. This kind act was probably no big deal for the mysterious woman because arthritis is almost non-existent where she comes from. And even if people were to develop the disease, everyone would know exactly what to do. She helped hundreds of people in addition to me. Extremely quickly, it immediately worked. Easily, it required only minimal effort. Permanently, I never suffered again. Today, I want to do the same for you. I'm going to pay the gift forward, take you by the hand and lead you step by step through the 3-step strategy of 1. Relieving your pain and stiffness today. 2. Permanently ridding you of the underlying cause of your arthritis. 3. Rebuilding the damage already done to your joints. All naturally without the use of prescription medications that only make your condition worse in the long haul. Now, you may have heard there is no cure for arthritis. And this is absolutely true when it comes to the traditional medical system. But in other parts of the world, where Western medicine is not practiced, arthritis is almost non-existent. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how all this started. It's shameful, but when your husband leaves you on your 56th birthday, which also happens to be Valentine's Day, it really gets your goat, doesn't it? Should I blame him? I don't know. I guess I was not so easy to live with back then. Plus, I got my sweet revenge later, as I'll tell you in a second. You see, I met Andrew when we were both in college. Shortly after we got married, I began to develop rheumatoid arthritis. Things got worse. Carrying 2 children and being immobile due to my diseases, I added on a lot of weight in the next 10 to 15 years. That put extreme strain on my knee joints, leading to additional osteoarthritis in my early 40s. It didn't help that I worked in a small office sitting in front of a computer all day long. When every move you make feels like torture, you tend to avoid moving. This is probably the number one mistake us who suffer from arthritis make. This is also one of the main reasons obesity is twice as common among people with arthritis than the general public. I was no exception. Sometimes when the arthritis flares were the worst, I would lie in bed for days and days. Andrew wanted to go to gatherings or take a trip, but I couldn't go with him. I remember on our 22nd wedding anniversary, we planned to go to an old famous 5-star restaurant that was on the 2nd floor. I just couldn't walk up the steps, and we ended up eating pizza down the street. This is a sad reality for a young woman in her early 50s. These were supposed to be our golden years. Many women our age dread their husbands running off with a younger, friskier woman. Well, Andrew got a friskier woman, but she was actually 2 years older than me. I was devastated. What an asshole dumping his wife of 31 years in her misery and pain. Andrew left the house immediately after telling me the grave news. He had already packed a suitcase, and I assume he drove straight over to his whore. I just sat frozen at the kitchen table in our big house. I couldn't cry, couldn't really process what was happening. And the thought that came to me over and over again was, how am I going to function on my own? The next day I called out of work saying I was sick. I'd done that a million times due to my arthritis. But then some kind of insanity hit me. You see, I always wanted to travel to Asia, and as I was drowning my sorrow while surfing the internet, an ad popped up for a cheap last-minute flight and hotel to Hong Kong, leaving the next day. Before I could think about the pain of flying across the world, I bought the ticket and began packing. I thought it couldn't be more painful than staying in my house. I was wrong. Although I'd popped 12 of the strongest painkillers I had, I didn't sleep a wink in the small, uncomfortable airplane seats. When we finally descended in Hong Kong after 16 hours of flying, I didn't think I could walk off the plane. As if that wasn't enough, little did I know that the hotel they put me in was far away from the major tourist or business areas. I was the only Westerner in sight. It truly felt like authentic China. Now here comes the important part. How a cup of tea changed my life. After tossing and turning, trying to sleep for about 12 hours, I decided I should get some kind of refreshment. More tired than I had ever been in my life and tortured with pain, I limped out of the hotel and sat down in the first restaurant I found. Then something weird happened. An older Chinese woman came over to me, and without saying a word, she poured me a cup of her special Chinese tea. Then, before I could order, she brought me a bowl of strange-smelling soup. And as suddenly as she'd appeared, the woman disappeared without a word. Well, what else could I do other than drink the tea and eat the soup? After all, I was starving. Then the most amazing thing happened. Before I knew it, my body felt better than I could remember. For the first time in years, my joints loosened up, my pain took a coffee break, and I had energy like I was running on rocket fuel. It was like my arthritis was completely cured on the spot. As I was enjoying the last sip of the soup and my newfound freedom, the mysterious woman came up to me from behind and asked in broken English, "Now, how do you feel?" Believe me when I say, I didn't just thank her. I wanted to kiss this old woman. Her name was Jenerdquo. As we began to chat, she explained what had just happened to me. You see, what I didn't know was that it was no ordinary restaurant. People from all over Hong Kong went there for a meal, but the food was actually made with specific healing ingredients depending on each person's condition. Jenerdquo told me she came from a small village in southeast China. She immediately recognized my arthritis and knew exactly what ingredients to throw into her tea and soup to give me instant relief. What she told me next put me on a track toward 100% arthritis relief.